The Pokemon Unite developers only had one job. That's it. They just needed to do one thing for the new ranked season, and that was separate solo queue from 5-man teams. And they didn't do it. So the last 3 months of waiting have been a waste, and there's really no reason to play Pokemon Unite right now because the game has no competitive integrity. And it's a real shame, because I love Pokemon Unite. I've been rooting for Pokemon Unite. I want to see it be so much more than it is. I saw greatness. This could have actually been the next League of Legends, because Pokemon MOBA, that is a winning formula that everyone has wanted for so long. And I've also defended the devs. You know, the game was never pay to win, and honestly, the balance of this game has been really good overall. Yeah, there was Gengar on launch, and Blastoise on launch, and Sylveon, but those got dealt with really quickly by the next patch, and in Sylveon's case, it was hotfixed. It seems like the devs cared. And then there's also like some other weird things, like I don't think Greedent is overtuned or busted or anything like that. It's a solid Pokemon. A lot of other decisions are, alright, a little questionable, but playable. I've been in League of Legends for almost a decade. I've seen some awful metas, and every new champion being unforgivably broken. Yeah, you could say that about Sylveon, but overall, Mamoswine's pretty good, Greedent's pretty good, Gardevoir wasn't like the most insane Pokemon ever, so yeah, aside from like Blastoise, it's a reasonable game. And even other games like Overwatch. Overwatch was the first FPS game I ever played. I skipped Call of Duty, Halo, all of those other things because I saw something in Overwatch that I didn't see in those games, and I loved Overwatch when it came out. And then just terrible balance decisions and all these like weird new characters that ended up coming out. I wasn't having it, and then Goat's meta made me quit for good. So with Pokemon Unite, like the balance, it's better than almost any other game I've played. But what I am getting more and more frustrated with is the lack of transparency and the very infrequent updates. We just had a new ranked season begin, and the website's last update was October 20th for the beginning of the Halloween event. A new ranked season should be something massive. That should be like a game update in itself, and maybe there is going to be a major game update on Wednesday, but then why put out the new ranked season early on Sunday if everything's going to be a mess for 3 days and then fixed, but then the entirety of the ranked season has been tainted by the 3 days that a weird decision was made to not just include a patch with the new ranked season? This looks like the news page of a 4-year-old gacha game that's on its last breath. After the mobile release, we've only had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts, and 3 of those were on the same day. I don't understand. Also, one thing I'm not upset with when it comes to Pokemon Unite are the new Pokemon releases. I think we've had a good amount of new Pokemon, and the current roster is actually really good for a variety of playstyles. It's not hard to have 2 or 3 mains at this point, and since there's like no draft, which I have no problem with draft. I'm alright with just straight blind picking and having fun in Pokemon Unite. So like, things that a lot of people are complaining about, I don't have issues with. It's just a lot of these other weird things. Like, you know you're doing something wrong when Riot Games has you beaten in transparency and trying to make the game work, because they do a patch every 2 weeks. I know I said Pokemon Unite feels balanced, but getting regular patches still feels really good to mix things up in the game. Maybe a Pokemon you play gets a buff. Maybe something that frustrates you gets nerfed, even though it doesn't like super deserve a nerf, and then the game stays a little spicy. Also, Pokemon Unite's balance. Some of those decisions I can't agree with or defend or even begin to understand. Machamp got nerfed in the first patch, and then no one's played it since. They just kept buffing Talonflame until it became overtuned and then didn't revert it. Lucario went 3 months without a nerf and then gets the softest tap of a nerf. Yeah, it made Lucario less strong, but that's absurd still for what Lucario gets away with. And then Zeraora, no nerfs, but Cramorant gets 3 nerfs that are substantial to its main kit. I don't understand how the devs came to the conclusion that Cramorant needs Whirlpool, Surf, and its Unite move gutted, but Lucario's okay, Zeraora needs a Wild Charge buff, and then all the other things that are going on inside the game. Like, what I like about Pokemon Unite, and why I feel there is a strange balance to it, is because I love that old school, like, Season 2, Season 3 League of Legends, where if everything's busted, everyone's having fun, and everyone has a chance. So yeah, a lot of things in Pokemon Unite feel powerful because they're supposed to be powerful, and Pokemon that you didn't even think needed a buff get buffs anyways. Cool. Then how the hell is Cramorant getting nerfed? No one's playing it! And then Lucario gets a smaller nerf than Cramorant, and also just smaller nerfs than other Pokemon that end up getting nerfed, even though Lucario is the best Pokemon in the game, tied with Zeraora. It's crazy. So I mean, like, yeah, like, okay, the game can be balanced inside of that, but at least make some of the decisions make sense. Also, Pokemon Unite is a new game, which means there's years and years of other developers' mistakes to learn from and then apply into Pokemon Unite, which is why I'm just sitting here, how is Riot doing better than the new MOBA game when there's a lot of complaints about like how Riot has handled League of Legends and all that stuff, but I mean, they have quick gameplay thoughts. Every 2 weeks, you get an idea about the state of the game. Also, in between those, you get dev posts saying, hey, here's what we want to do for the future. Hey, here's what we want to do for preseason. We didn't get anything. There was no transparency about the upcoming rank season, even a discussion about what they plan on doing with Zapdos or how they plan on handling the rank queues or addressing any of those problems, because it's hard to unify a community about anything, especially a MOBA community, especially the Pokemon community. The Pokemon community is the most split community in all of gaming because Pokemon is the largest franchise in the world. It's just that massive. It's so massive no one can agree on anything. Yet everyone agrees Zapdos needs a nerf and that 5-man in solo queue is unacceptable. Nothing was done about it. And another thing that Pokemon Unite can get away with as a new game is walking things back. You can make big changes this early on and then go, oh wait, that was too much of a buff. Oh wait, that was too much of a nerf, and then completely revert it, or just like, you know, step half of it back, or give a little bit more of a buff, or maybe take a little bit of power away or something. Like, you can do that because the game is new and you're not going to get as faulted for it, especially if you're quick on the decisions. Maybe a patch every week and a half. No one's going to be upset about that. Yet we're getting a new game that is getting less updates, less transparency than something that's established and already made these mistakes. How does that happen? And what makes it even harder to swallow is that there's been multiple surveys, but we haven't had any follow-up on the surveys. Like, this message from the Unite team didn't address, I don't even know, like a third of the issues. They were talking about the whole pay-to-win thing, which was just nonsense to begin with. So that's the community just distracting the devs and then ruining the game. And that's another big problem. Like, the Pokemon Unite community is terrible. The content creators are just filling the heads of children with really bad ideas, making the game quality just worse and worse over time. Score Shield is bad. Stealth Rocks is bad. Stop playing these things. Don't backdoor. Just all group for Dreadnought. Rotate to Rotom. All group for Zapdos. Yet, a majority of players struggle with the most fundamental of basic gameplay concepts. I don't get it. I just can't comprehend the cognitive dissonance. A-Drive says he's a bad player, but then goes and puts out tier lists, and then people worship those tier lists, even though it's from an admitted bad player. What? How does that work? How do we get away with that? No one sees the problem in that, and then they go and take that bad game sense into the games and just start spoiling it for everyone else, which leads to like crazy player burn and stuff. So yeah, like the mentality of the Pokemon Unite community is also just terrible, and the game got like stuffed out by the whole lie that the game is pay to win. The new held items were pretty cool, but it didn't come with any other held item balance. You need to nerf Buddy Barrier or Focus Band to give something else a chance. Also, like, Leftovers is super underrated, like, not even underrated, just underpicked because it does suck. Floatstone is useless because of the 8-second lockout with combat, and Rocky Helmet just doesn't have a place. Even, like, if you pick Rocky Helmet to get bulkier against physical attackers, the effective health doesn't matter, so, like, the new items just became new strong items. Weakness Policy, not really that great, but then, like, Choice Specs is a must pick, and Razor Claw became a must pick on, like, all-rounders or something, so, yeah, it didn't do anything without any other item balance around it. The introduction of Unite Squads. I thought this was going to do something. I thought this would mean something. No, it's a completely worthless feature that I haven't touched since the day it was introduced because there's no point to it. Like, how hard is it to do a squad queue? That's all you need. You get 5 people from the squad to team, and then that's how you rank your squad. Now, with 30 people allowed in the squad, that could maybe make things kinda weird, but it's better than allowing 5 stacks in solo queue. How does that make it out of beta? That was already a massive problem in beta back in June. Stayed for the first season. And then there wasn't like an emergency season cancel. So that's why I feel like also needed to happen. Like, okay, cool. You let the Nintendo Switch like have the first season and then you just have a completely fresh season. No, you threw mobile players into an already established season to duke it out with the worst of the Switch players, because those are the ones still stuck in beginner through expert tier, and then new players on mobile, or also just people smurfing on Switch, just punting the new players down even more from mobile. allowing 5-man coordinated teams into solo queue is objectively bad for the health of the game, and just completely delegitimizes everything about the ranked ladder, because then it just becomes a competition of whoever has 4 other friends online the most gets to float to the top. Now technically it's like, well, what if you and a duo friend play all day? It's easier to get one person that's pretty good to play with all night instead of having like 4 people with no lives just coordinate the entire time. But now it's like, okay, and that also creates like a lot of weird discrepancies and stuff. The queue times have gotten so bad that you can actually go, like, you can have a 5-man team go against solo queue players. Like, that'll just happen. And there's no elo system in this game. You can be an ultra tier and then go up against a 5-stack of 1,800 players or higher. So you could actually go up against the best ranked team on the ladder as like an ultra or veteran player, or even just like a fresh master player. Or even a low master player if you're under 1,200 where you get placed. And even now, with the new ranked season, the game feels pretty dead. Like, if we have a new ranked season, especially for a game that's only like 3-4 months old, that should have like millions of active players, you know, when you first start playing Pokemon Unite, those queues were instant. You were getting in there. Now, a duo queue at around 5 p.m. Pacific time, which was when the season rolled over, was taking 30, 40 seconds, maybe even a minute in some situations. So there's also just not a robust player base either, which is pretty bad. Twitch viewership can also be a very telling sign. So we have a new game that just had a major ranked ladder reset and 3,500 viewers. Pokemon Unite's pretty dead. Like, you'd be like, but my queue times, and but my this, and but my that. It's still not in a healthy state. And if I'm an outlier, that outliers shouldn't exist at this point. There should be just millions of people having fun with the new Pokemon game, but it's not happening because of a failing on the devs and the community at large. And I can only describe it as magical with how terrible the average Pokemon Unite player is. Now, I do blame a lot of this on content creator irresponsibility, but at some point, it is on the player and their refusal to learn, which is why I consider it hilarious when people are like, yeah, Pokemon Unite is just baby's first MOBA, it's an easy game, it's an easy MOBA, when most of the players struggle with Pokemon Unite. And it shouldn't be that hard. There are some complex decisions, there are some interesting things that you have to do throughout the game to like really succeed at a high level, but even then, players just lack on the fundamentals to where it's like, you lose this game. How is that fair? Like, look at this, a combined almost 200,000 damage for 60% damage share with my duo. There was no one else, it was just me and him and 3 randoms, and that's what you get out of it. A Lucario with the lowest damage, a Venusaur that decided to throw the game because all you have to do, save your Unite move, group and fight at Zapdos. And 90% of players can't comprehend that. So he tried to score when Zapdos was up, ended up getting the team wiped. He might have gotten a score off because he has 124 points. Still didn't get MVP despite throwing the game single-handedly. That's all it takes. All it takes is one person on Zapdos, you lose the game. I don't consider that a fault of the game. I'm just baffled that players are so stupid they just let it happen time and time again. And then it's also just the impossible 4v5 games that also got really close. Like, that's just RNG. That's just luck right there on a win. And that could have easily been a loss because we have a 20,000 damage Lucario. And the only reason he has that much damage is probably because he got 8,000 of it at like a Zapdos fight after we already won, or we were pretty much winning that fight anyways. I don't remember each individual game, but I think that's another problem that happens with allowing 5 stacks and solo queue, because it all goes in the same place, so you might as well just have 5 players, you know, grouped together and try to rank up, which means it's a lot of rejects or just solos that can't find 4 other people to play consistently with. And honestly, anyone that's coming from another MOBA or trying to play the game on a serious competitive level, they're not going to deal with this garbage. They're going to see that 5-man teams can play in solo queue, and they're just going to quit the game outright. Like, any honest person looks at this and knows it's a complete joke. The rank system is completely fraudulent and means nothing, and as I've shown over the last week or so, spectating the quote-unquote top-ranked players is a complete joke. These players are awful. Top ranked is awful because there's no skill to be found in Pokemon Unite, because all the good players, they don't want to deal with this and they just leave, or they're getting wrecked in solo queue by just players that make the games impossible to win. And that just leads to more player burn, which leads to longer queue timers, which leads to more player dissatisfaction, and then good players leaving the games, and then you can't fix any of the problems. Like, I think Pokemon Unite could function very well by only allowing one tier disparity. But instead, as a veteran player, you should never be allowed inside of a Master Rank game, but here they are, ruining Master Rank games. If you're unlucky enough to get the 1 or 2 veterans in the queue on your team, that's pretty much just a loss right there. Haha, but it says you're veteran on screen. Yeah, it's the new season, it just rolled over. Every master got reset to veteran 3. But I'm saying before then, yeah, that like should have never happened. So like having the 2 rank gap is absurd. It also makes it very frustrating to climb. Like if you're in veteran tier and then you have like 2 greats on your team completely pulling you down when you're trying to climb in any point of the season, you need to have a wider thing to make queue timers less frustrating, because even when the game was still kind of new and you made it to like ultra tier or master tier, it was hard to find games. But if the game was more favored and had a larger active player base, then you could actually increase satisfaction, which increases the stickiness of players, which then keeps things healthier for longer. So there is a real catch-22 there, but it seems like the devs have made like all the wrong decisions, or whatever just happened with how screwed up and toxic the Pokemon community has become, but also just the weird decisions from the devs, to where like, yeah, there's just no point playing Pokemon Unite anymore. And then there hasn't even been a dev post about it. Why can't they be transparent about Zapdos? I would have no problem if they just said, hey, we want to keep Zapdos strong because that is our vision with the game. They would get some backlash for it, but from their decisions of not really doing anything about Zapdos, now they did like nerf Dreadnought and buff Rotom and then nerf Zapdos a little bit, but didn't really change the game, and there was still no transparency about that. And now Zapdos still is the game, so backdooring didn't become any more. Like, if anything, like, those changes made the game worse because there was no dev statement behind it. No one's gonna read those patch notes and be like, well, what do the devs want me to do? Instead, they're like, oh, Zapdos nerfed, I can backdoor now? No, the game is pretty much the exact same as before that patch. If you're not 5-manning first Dreadnought in solo queue, you're trolling. If you're not 5-manning for Zapdos on spawn, you're trolling. You actually need to be in the center area at like 2 minutes and 15 seconds to really get that good jump on Zapdos. But instead, people are like, oh, no, if Zapdos is worth less points, I can backdoor this, and then I can rotate over. No, by then, your team is wiped. They use all, like, their Unite move momentum, take Zapdos, and you lose the game. So, I mean, this didn't fix any problems and actually create more problems because of the lack of transparency. And then there's, like, no dev post about it. Also, no acknowledgement, because with the surveys going out, again, like, you can't unify a community on anything, but everyone's unified that you can't have 5 stacks inside of solo queue, and you also can't have Zapdos be the way it is without any statement whatsoever. And it, like, Zapdos is so messy that there was like the official strategy thing. I think we can actually find that, like, community Pokemon Unite tips brings us to the Pokemon website, but doesn't properly link to the tips. And now the tips are like months old and buried, and even what they have to say about Zapdos is a complete mess. Actually, that was the wrong post. So I haven't even been hearing about any of these posts just randomly being like thrown onto the Pokemon website. Here it is, the minute-by-minute guide. If you scroll down to Zapdos, Zapdos is like the most cloudy, foggy mess where they're like, hey, you want to be taking Zapdos, but you also might not want to take Zapdos because if you know they're taking Zapdos, you can backdoor some points. And like, there's an official guide that is telling people how to throw games. Perhaps counterintuitively, if your team is in the lead when Zapdos appears, it may be beneficial to not attack it. That's wrong. Zapdos needs to be taken in 99% of games. Like, there's very, very rare complex game states where you do not go for Zapdos. You can, like, try to bait it because that happens in pro play for, like, League of Legends and stuff, and games usually end with the Baron taken some kind of form. Or if Elder Dragon is up, Elder Dragon is not left alone. It is taken on spawn. Even if there is, like, a chance of throwing, it's more risky to leave Zapdos up than to have a chance at it getting stolen, and if you play it properly, it really can't get stolen. So that's just trash advice that's costing people games and making the game a lot more unplayable. That we also have, while your opponents are preoccupied with battling Zapdos and some of your teammates, your other teammates can continue to score points on the unguarded goal zones. No. Never. Who? Why? Nah. Because then it's a 5v4 or, God forbid, a 5v3 in the Zapdos pit. At that point, the game's over. Instantly wiped. Like I said, then they take that momentum to just hard take Zapdos. Congratulations, your 200 point backdoor offset by 500 points. You lose. And like I said earlier, even if there is a substantial patch or some kind of dev statement that comes out in the next couple of days, like on Wednesday with the next balance change, why did they start the season without the new balance change for the new season? again, those 3 days are going to like ruin the entirety of ranked because people are going to be several hundred points ahead only because of everything being broken and uncompetitive. Also, another problem I have with Pokemon Unite is that they haven't done any official competitive events, so again, there's even less incentive. Players are just leaving the game, having no reason to come back, and then never looking back. There's no value to getting high rank on the competitive ladder right now, so there's really no competitive system for the game, and like I said, the only thing that it is right now is broken, which makes it even less competitive and has less incentive for players to go for it. So I mean, what are we to do? Like 3 months in, no announcement, no like, hey, get ready, you know, 20, like even talking about the roadmap. Where's the future of Pokemon Unite? We haven't heard anything about the future of Pokemon Unite. What if they're like, hey, in Q1 2022, we're planning on trying out a new competitive feature and if you're over 18, these can include cash prizes like other Play Pokemon events. Like, where's the Play Pokemon integration? There's nothing yet. So, this is why I'm just disappointed. There's so much to learn from other games, and since you have the new game, you can do these crazy things just to try to keep players interested in the game, and they're not doing it. They are just, it's like, again, like it already feels like the game is abandoned. It already feels like the game has lost most of its money, most of its support, is a couple years old, and it's just kind of hanging in there because it's kind of supposed to at that point. I gave the Pokemon Unite devs a lot of credit and a lot of optimism, and they have done the bare minimum for their game, and really, mostly detrimental decisions that don't really make any sense. So, that's why I'm upset and disappointed, that's why Pokemon Unite's dead. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day, thank you very much for watching.